Hi, I'm GGZII, and for the past 10 months I've been playing and giving feedback on the game Gears of War 5. I'm very impressed by the turnaround of the game, and I'm pleasantly looking forward to the most recent developer playlist update. However, in today's video I would like to focus on the ranked play in Gears 5. I've decided that the best way to test the system was indeed to play it, so instead of playing a few games here or there, seeing how it works and making a video, I really wanted to test and put a good amount of hours into it. Since the system launched, I've averaged around 3 hours a day playing the new ranking system, and I've reached a peak of Diamond 3 as a solo player. I've played in solos, duos, and occasionally in a 5-man stack for this test. If I were to estimate how much time I've spent in each mode as a percentage, it would be 2% in a 5-man stack, 8% duo queue, and 90% of my games have been solo play. To begin, I would again like to state that I think the ranking system is indeed a large improvement and a big step in the right direction. However, there is also some clear issues I've encountered. I don't feel like any of these issues are unsolvable, and I'm going to attempt to give some ideas to help or give you some different ways of thinking about things. Now, let me be clear though, the current system has destroyed my passion for the game, my ability to stream, and my friends' desire to play. This might sound drastic and over the top, but I'm just being honest. I can't stream due to the impossibly long wait times. It's very difficult to have fun in incredibly uneven games. I am abused on a daily basis through text chat through my own stream. I am sniped, which means a player watches my queue to find my game. I am asked to dodge certain games so popular stacks can play popular stacks, and if I don't oblige, they'll usually repay the favour by stacking up, sniping me, and destroying me the next game. This is obviously not a pure ranking issue, but we'll get onto it. Friends that were previously all diehard Gears fans have frequently alt F4'd the game, which they previously didn't do, turned off their PCs, or simply not played for days and weeks at a time due to the community's habits, the new system in place, and the complete lack of player base specifically for PC. I'm here to help, and I want to improve your game. I've dedicated myself since 2006 to this franchise, despite all of this, and this, I guess, is my last hurrah. I am losing faith in the franchise, and I owe it to my fans and the people that have supported me for this journey to be open and clear about that. Obviously, each individual player is going to have their own experiences and expectations of a ranking system, and it's important to know who's behind the current feedback to better understand the feedback and the place/sentiment it comes from. A brand new player to the genre, for example, would be able to give much better feedback on what turns them off the franchise or keeps them coming back than compared to me, a player who has been here since the launch in 2006. However, in a way that does give me a unique viewpoint, as there seemingly aren't many 2006 quote veterans left. So let's get into the feedback. I'm a player that's played since 2006, and yeah, I'm still here. So I definitely enjoy the franchise, and I've always wanted the best for it. Personally, I've travelled from the road of being unable to beat the campaign as a casual, as a young kid, to being competitive on Gears of War 1. And still, all of these years later, I managed to gain masters every season, have enjoyment, and have also reached number 1 of multiple modes for a brief period of time. So I can see both ends of the stick. I can see how hard the game is and how rewarding it can be. As a player, I have begun to enjoy ladder systems more and more, and I can understand their importance to a game's ecosystem. A healthy, populated, working ladder system not only keeps players engaged, but also inspires others to play better, and keep playing and get better. It also means matches are more even, so even though typically people presume a ladder system is there for the high-level players, it can actually have a direct positive influence on the lower end of the player base. Nobody likes to be stomped. Even if you're a new player, you like a game to feel a bit back and forth. You like to have a chance. So a working ranking system can couple up and group up these low-level players, and they can have much more fun. This would lead to fewer quitters in the long run. For players to be willing to sink time into a system, it needs to consistently work. This allows the end user to build up trust with the system. They will put up with a few bad games, a few uneven placement games, for example. If the general consensus from the community is stick with it, it works, you will end up finding people your level, you will slowly improve, and you will rank up. That's really all anyone wants. Where people turn away is when they get stomped or continually stomp. It becomes boring. So, tight and consistent solid matchmaking is definitely the key. That's why I thought the new direction of the system is much improved due to its clarity in how you rank up and earn points. There is, however, some issues that have made the experience vary and caused it to be a little too hit and miss for me to willingly sink time into. When you initially load up the game, you are given a piece of text that says compete against opponents of similar ranks. This clearly lets the user know that this is the game mode to play if they want close, intense games, and this was working for me. However, it stopped working, and I am enjoying ranked less and less. It's moved from being those close, intense games that kept me playing to a very hit and miss system. I understand the reason why it happened. There was a change from matching players 1 league above or below to 2. This was to allow early league spread, but in a moment I'd like to give an alternative viewpoint as to why this wasn't healthy for the long-term ladder. What I will now do is finish up this section by discussing the initial parts of the ranking system and move on to issues and solutions. I will attempt to list an issue and provide some context around why I have this issue and try to give a solution that may aid you or give you another point of view to consider between yourselves. So, entering into the ranking system, the UI is great. It clearly explains what the user needs to do to earn points and what they will earn. The only slight concern is it doesn't really indicate if there is a quit penalty. There is just a star, which doesn't really give the player any information about what that is. Does a star mean there is one? There isn't one? For me, a simple yes with a description or a no would be better. Personally, this game has massive issues with quitters. It's the number one thing that gets brought up on my videos, stream and Discord. Nobody enjoys quitters, and it's an absolute priority that needs to be sorted. The only thing really lacking from the UI screen is a leaderboard to see the top people from each division. I think people like to see who's at the top to give them something more visual to chase than just simply a rank. Speaking of ranks, I've had many comments that the generic bronze to masters names are just that, a bit generic. It would be nice to have a Gears naming twist to the ranks, but I do understand this is a very minor concern and we have more pressing issues, which I will discuss. I can see why you chose those names, for clarity and for familiarity to those non-Gears fans. I like how clear the system is and how it rewards you per tier. I would say that the XP reward is a bit pointless, and anyone that plays ranked a lot either doesn't need the XP or as well the XP is a far too low value to be really meaningful. Now, playing the ranking system. To begin about playing the ranking system, I'll do a quick point. All of my work was put into King of the Hill. The feedback you're receiving is from King of the Hill, and it took a very long time to rank up, which is fine. I like the grind. The season element is nice. However, most games that do have these rewards often only have one ranking system, but in Gears of War 5 we have ranking systems for 2v2, King of the Hill, Gridiron and Free-for-all. It would take a crazy amount of playtime as a solo player with losses and wins coming in to complete all of these ranking systems. And when I say complete, I don't mean reach masters. When I say complete, I mean reaching your own elo. An elo where your games become close because you've found people of your skill, and they become fun because they're close. It would take so long for me to reach a point where the game modes are close to my own elo that it's not reasonable or feasible for me to do that. This has led to players basically picking one game mode and sticking with it for a season, which isn't ideal for the long-term health of certain modes. I personally want to play Gridiron and 2v2s, but I can't bring myself to play another 2 full ranking systems that take so long to get out of bronze and silver. Even winning every single game, it takes you a while, and I don't really enjoy stomping, and people don't enjoy being stomped. People should move up a bit quicker in pace. I have played 3 free-for-all games, which took me the entirety of the sort of duration of the lifespan of the system to find, and I won all 3 games, and yet I believe I'm still bronze 2 or 3. Something seems a bit wrong with the early levels of ranking. This also encourages the issue of stacks, or adds to it. Due to the length of time the early rank climb takes, people really don't want to lose. They can't be bothered to lose and slow it even more, so people are more likely to stack because they desperately don't want to lose. I'm absolutely fine grinding later into the system, but for me, getting out of bronze shouldn't be slower than diamond. Now, quitters are a major issue, and I understand this has been in the pipeline for many months, and it's a super hard issue to tackle. You need to punish quitters but also to be fair to the accidents that can happen. Internet's getting switched off, plugs getting pulled, storms, random DCs. It's going to be super hard to tell what's a rage quit, a DC, an actual server issue, or somebody wandering around not really trying and soft throwing the game. Soft throwing is a term that comes from League, where somebody doesn't leave the game but plays in such a passive manner that will guarantee a loss for his team. It's very difficult to tell if somebody's doing this or is a bad player. Very difficult to tell if a bad player is different from someone giving up. But as you go higher and higher up the ladder, it becomes more and more obvious, and there should be a way to report or deal with this kind of behaviour. Again, this aids the health of the ladder and makes people want to invest time into it. Nobody likes to load into a game and play 4v5 or a 5v5 where everyone has given up. At any sort of reasonable level of play, it becomes completely unwinnable and an unenjoyable experience, and nobody wants to repeat that, so they're less likely to queue again. So we know quitters are an issue, but how do we deal with them? Firstly, you're not ever going to get rid of quitters. It's about controlling the amount and making the end result of the quit less frustrating for the actual people that aren't quitting and are still trying. I think with every solution I can come up with, there's going to be abusable edge cases. But for the health and happiness of the population, something needs to be done. I'm no expert in this, and these are just some ideas I've come up with, but there should be a punishment for quitting and an incentive for staying. It's much easier to incentivize staying than to punish quitting, from my experience anyway. And from my experience, the most frustrating things that have happened to me on ladder were the following losses. A 5v4 loss and losing a large amount of points. Solo losses versus a 5-man team and losing a large amount of points. Losses where a teammate was a hugely different rank compared to my own, and games where people don't try. So how could you help someone like me enjoy the game a little more? Personally, I know some of these cases are abusable, but for a vast majority of the ladder experience, it's going to be improved, and I think it's about building people's trust back up and getting them playing. So here are a few quick ideas. If a game becomes 5v4, then after 5 minutes, the game becomes, quote, free to leave. Now the two teams can choose to play on. If the team with the lever wins, they'll get their GP, and if they lose, the cost of entry was refunded. This lets people have a choice, stay in the game and try win their points, or not waste their time and get going into the next game. The team with 5 are still free to play on and win their GP, or if they don't enjoy 5v4s, they are free to opt out and have their GP also refunded. Now, there are major issues where a stacked team could be unsure if they'll win, and they could ask one of their teammates to quit. So the game becomes free to leave and they save their points. Or you play with a duo and they don't really care about that rank. They could also ask to leave. If these players are partied up with the lever to sort of negate this issue, they could all take a small GP hit to discourage asking their friends or people they're partied with to quit. This is by no means perfect. However, the amount of people that are going to be asking their friends to quit to not lose GP is so small, and the overall health of the ladder would be so much better. People are going to be so much happier that their 4v5 games suddenly aren't meaningless and a waste of time. Also, note that if the person quitting to save his teammates these points receives a strong enough punishment, they might reconsider it. Dota 2 has this system, and it's actually quite enjoyable, the fact that 4v5s don't feel so brutal because you can leave. Either way, whether my solution is right or wrong, I think we can agree that nobody enjoys having their time wasted or being demoted from situations out of their hands. For the last 3 points, they're all roughly similar and have one consistent element of frustration. Solo losses versus 5-man teams with a large amount of points lost. Losses where teammates were hugely different in ranking compared to my own, and losses where people aren't trying. All of these 3 things were very frustrating, and the one consistent element to this is poor matchmaking. People generally don't try when they feel it's an unwinnable game, and games typically feel like that when you're solo versus a stack, or your team is very uneven. Now, an easy solution would be to first disable stacks in King of the Hill, similar to how it's been done in Team Deathmatch. If you want a ladder system to be played and respected, as in People look to the ladder and go, damn, these are some top players. You can't have 5-man stacks rising to the top because they gained 95% of their points by smashing solo players. Now, ideally, I would sit here and say get rid of stacks, meaning people of 3+ party size for ranked play, and separate the queues. But I understand, with a population this small, you can't be supporting the loss of stacks out or separating people out into different queues. So again, rather than block stacks from playing, let's encourage solo play, or let's encourage stack play. For me, again, one of these is easy to do. It's hard enough for me to play Gears. It's a niche game, and needing to find 5 people in my region through a Discord, are looking for an LFG, are looking for game, or a forum, it's quite tough. And people might end up not wanting to queue at all if they can only find 4. And that means 4 less people are queuing, which, again, would sort of ruin the ladder. Less players, longer matchmaking, having to stretch out the sort of quality of games. So, instead of doing this and having 4 less people queuing, let's encourage solo play. Let's try get people, whether they're in a team or not, to hop on and play some ladder. For context, I've reached Diamond 3 as my peak as a solo player, and beyond that, it's become borderline impossible for me to realistically rank up through my own play. The only way I'm probably going to rank up is tailcoating off an odd 4-man stack that I somehow get in a game with. This is kind of frustrated me, and I'm not enjoying constantly facing stacks. This has also massively impacted my matchmaking times. Now, because everybody is a 5v5 stack, I'm having to sit there and wait for a solo slot to become available, which is very rare. 50-minute queue times are my average, which I could just about handle, as most high elo games have longer waiting times if, and only if, the resulting match I found was even. However, I am not finding even games. What has now happened is, due to this low population and low amount of open slots, the matchmaking restrictions of finding 1 league higher or lower has changed, and it's now opened up to 2 leagues higher or lower. So now I'm having to wait just as long for that slot to be open, but I now end up in a situation where I am a diamond player playing with golds against a 5-man master stack. This results in an incredibly frustrating, unbalanced game, and nobody enjoys that. The scenarios happened 4 times in a row, and I was demoted from Diamond 3 to Mid Onyx. As a result, even though I understand why you opened up the searching parameters and made them wider, it has a knock-on effect of making matches very lopsided, and I can't recommend my friends to get back into Gears and plays a system that disregards your time and effort. What I mean by this is, I've spent multiple weeks plus trying to reach a certain level and expect to play with a certain level. That's my reward for improving and playing. However, I technically may as well still be in Gold League and having quicker matchmaking times, because I can still play with golds anyway. Again, I'm happy to wait for longer, better games. Yes, it's not ideal, but the more and more good games that get created, the more close experiences that happen, the more the system gets praised and recommended, and as a result, the population grows. Currently, that's not the case. Nobody's recommending playing, and I can't recommend anybody gets into the system, certainly not as a solo player. Here are a few solutions I think that the game, it would be a good thing for the game. +1, -1 matchmaking with solo duo only. However, I don't think that's going to happen, so I recommend encouraging solo play through the new GP system, the Gears Points system. I believe a good solo player should still be able to perform against duos, so I propose this. If a solo player queues for ranked and encounters a 3-man team, then the cost of entry should be lowered. Let's take Onyx, for example. 150 Gears points to enter with 5 members on the enemy team. It means each person is worth 30 Gears points. If you're a solo player and you search and encounter a game, and on the opposing team there is a 3-man team, then my entry points, instead of being 150 GP, would be 60 GP as a solo player. The reason is, if each player is worth 30 gears points, then 3 times 30 is 90 gears points minus the 150. If I was to face a 4-man stack, it would be 4 times 30 is 120 gears points, 30 cost to enter, and if it was a 5-man team, 5 times 30, it would be free to enter. So losing versus a stack would almost be a free hit, and rightly so. A stack should not be losing to a solo player. Now these numbers can be tweaked, so maybe if you fight a 5-man stack, there is still a cost to enter and it's not completely free. These are just some numbers I'm spitting out there. But what you could do is you could now argue that, you know, if the solo player has a stack on his team, say a 4-man, that he might actually have a good chance to win. And he also has a very low entry fee. That's kind of overpowered, I hear you say. Well, for sure, it kind of is. But that's definitely going to encourage solo play, and more might come out and do it. Again, I'm not saying my solution is the right one, but if you can't ban stacks and you can't change the matchmaking options due to player-based numbers, something's got to be done to encourage solo play. Something drastic. A small amount of GP won't change anything. It's got to be a big fix. Again, I really dislike being completely walloped by a stack, losing all of my points and having to play 2 people and having to carry 2 people plus ranks below me. Side note, I don't see any reason for displaying my teammates' rank in the lobby. This is just another point. If the matchmaking is +1, -1, then I don't really need to know what my opponent's rank is, because I can do the maths and see +1, -1. All this really does is it makes people quit pre-game because they're going to see lower ranks on their team. And again, lower ranks really shouldn't be able to queue with much higher ranks anyway. I understand they got matched with their highest party member, and that's okay. I, however, as a solo queue player, have not accepted this, and I haven't played to the level and played hundreds of games to reach my elo to suddenly have to go back and carry a brand new player. So I was thinking, how do we allow people to play with their friends and also not frustrate me, the solo queue player? A fair solution would be allowing these players to still queue with their lower ranked friend if they were a 5-man. Then nobody else in the game is going to have their experience involuntarily impacted. It's a win-win. Personally, I have been Masters every season, and it's pretty much impossible to reach these days as a solo player, which is indicating something's probably wrong. As these things improve, and as the ladder generally improves, overall player enjoyment will increase, and more people will begin to recommend the game, and the player base will slowly increase. I feel you as a company have to be kind of brave and accept that some systems are going to cause slower matchmaking times. But it's a slow process and don't rush it. I would say don't hurt the ladder's integrity for a quick flood of players. Cranking up the ranking system so you can find 2+ people might give you a quick flood of players, but those players are going to have such unenjoyable experiences that they're going to not enjoy the system, they're going to leave the sort of Gears world and ecosystem and not come back. Getting a working system, and I guess the age-old phrase, build it and there will come, spring to mind. Now, for costings, I don't really have any in-house metrics or numbers to really come out and say this value should be this. I'll just give some values and some ideas. Personally, from my play, the post-gold ranking system is a bit punishing. It seems to cost far too much to enter, especially as a solo player. It's impossible to consistently win streak in the current system as a solo player, and even 2 to 3 man at times. Often you're going to be put against some brutal setups that you really can't break, cap, or even kill. You need to have a team good enough that allows you to perform properly. They need to have a good team that allows you to break and kill, and that can be very punishing due to the cost of entry when you're on the receiving end of one of those defeats. It feels like, for me, I will win 4 games through sheer sweat and determination, and lose 1, and you're right back to square one. This can be very demoralizing, and it makes, again, people not want to queue. My chat and my viewers also dislike the elimination limit, and the fact you have sort of, once you've hit it, if you think you're going to lose the game, it's quite literally best to mindlessly run in and break the hill to get 1 gears points, rather than trying to play the game properly, flank around, break setups, and win. Recently, you have also updated the game to be 1 point per elimination. This makes it even more brutal, and losses that are out of your hand are even more punishing as we have less GP to negate the loss. Now, I personally like the way Gears used to have a Gears twist. A solution or an idea that was tossed around was using the medal system to earn a little bit of extra GP. Let's say you are losing heavily and you can't break the hill, cap it, and you have 40 limbs. There's nothing really more you can do or get out of the game with the current system. However, if your medals gave you Gears points, it could be a nice thing. Well, I didn't break the hill, but I did get a triple. I got a Hail Mary, or I put someone on swords, and I got some extra GP to negate the brutal loss. I'm not sure on the medals, what medals should be included, or the values, but it's an idea. Also, the person getting MVP on the losing team getting no lost points would be a nice touch. Now, this could be a bit abusable, as people could intentionally feed to get breaks to become the MVP. But it's a thinking point for sure. Now, personally, I think score per minute is the nicest, best, clearest way to rate an individual, especially for an MVP system. This could be simply put alongside the Gears score for the true MVP of each game, and the true MVP would earn no lost points. GP really isn't an indication of who was the best on the team. It's just who's performing the GP earning actions. Score per minute for me is the best metric we have to measure MVP. Side note on eliminations. An elimination should be given for somebody given an assisting factor in the kill, meaning a good 35+% of damage to 40%. Currently, a single tap of pistol is an elimination. I play support, so I know this would impact my KDA, but I'm fine with that. I should only really be getting eliminations for actually helping someone and changing the outcome of that fight, not tapping a single bullet into them. One of the last topics I want to talk about is ping. I dislike playing with or against laggy players. Now, as I type this, I understand it's kind of an unfixable situation, but I wanted to mention it. When I search for lower ping, or I search for faster matchmaking, this is me telling the game, listen, I want good ping, and I want to play good ping players. However, what ends up happening is I will get placed on the right server, which is fantastic, and I applaud you for putting in this system, but my team can all have 200 ping, and I can end up losing the game for that, or I can face 200 ping players with lag compensation, and just have many kills and deaths be completely unenjoyable, win or loss. I would like it if when I select lower ping, I couldn't face these higher ping players. But I understand that if that were the case, then these higher ping players from different regions might not be able to find a game, but I just thought I'd mention it. Lastly, I'd like to thank if you've read or listened this far, and I'll move on to my smaller last point is the maps. Personally, some of the maps are really enjoyable to fight on, and some less so. I think that the ranked experience should have maps that suit the game mode, and not every map should be available for every game mode. Maybe it's because it's my experience playing only 5-man stacks, and maybe if the issue gets sorted, then map issues go away. Maybe the new balance fixes this, but again, this video/text is to showcase my experiences, so I'd mention it. Blood Drive, Checkout, Dam, and Reclaimed all can feel pretty much impossible to win versus a communicating team. There are long routes, long lines of sights, and it seems impossible to really get a good flank as you are often spotted and you need to run down a long corridor. Also, the maps that I typically have issues with have visible spawns. This means a team can spin their setup and beam you down. Also, a stack team is going to control spawns. This is sort of a higher level issue where a team will block a spawn and put me in a sort of unwinnable situation as a stack. I understand that this is a very skilled element, and controlling spawns is not something I think should be removed from the game. But again, it just compiles the issue of solo versus team. That it can feel incredibly oppressive when it's done to you. All Fathers was my favourite map. But now, due to the new system and everybody stacking up, it's become a map where I dislike it. It's 5 men stand on the point, they smoke, they chain revive, and it's really, really hard to work an angle to get in there. Again, these aren't really specific points about the new ranking system, but it is mentioned as specifically because the stack can swing the map vote in any way they want, and it's definitely easier to play on certain maps. Now, side note, I'm really enjoying Reactor, and for that reason, I vote it a lot. You can seem to get out of spawn, and you can seem to find an angle and a way to enter fights. Often people don't vote maps. A great way to encourage this would be to offer XP or a small amount of GP for a vote. There could also be 2 options of maps to be picked from, and a random map. This might help some issues where certain maps never really get picked. So anyway, thanks for listening or watching. This has been sort of GGZ just chatting about the ranking system. Just to end this sort of talk, it feels like I'm specifically targeting stacks, and I guess in a way I am, but I'm trying to find a way so people can still stack, people can still play with their friends, which personally I don't think you should be able to on a ranking system. But I understand the community want to do that. So again, I think the system is better to encourage solo play through lowering the cost of entry per stack you face, or just flat out encouraging a low cost of entry if you play on your own or in a duo. Again, I think you should be allowed to duo queue, solo or duo. If you enter as a 3, 4 or 5 man, there should be something quite drastically happening to your GP entry, your price of losing, the amount you gain from winning. There needs to be a big switch in the philosophy of the ranking system to encourage solo play. The reason is because, again, yes, people tell me Gears of War 5 is a team game, therefore you should be able to play ranked in a team. I understand that notion. But you could also apply that notion to League of Legends, whereas their most successful mode is solo queue. Solo queue is a way for you to practice your mechanics, practice outplaying certain situations, and it's a way to improve yourself game by game by game. Whereas when you come into a stack, you just can't improve. You hit a wall, and there's nothing you can really do against it until you stack up. And people do tell me that. Z, you should stack up as well. But I don't think that's healthy for the long term of the game, because people don't want to stack up. They don't want to sit and have to set up a 5 man. They don't want to have to play a borderline scrim every game. So those are my thoughts of the ranking system. It's been very, very frustrating, and due to the sort of, community being quite abusive towards me, and due to the changes in the system that massively favors stacks, I'm kind of left in limbo where I'm not really enjoying the game to create content for all play. And I wanted to write this speech. It's 5,200 words, and just put it out there as my last video and just say, listen, I really, really enjoy Gears of War 5. I really think that with a good, healthy, working ladder system, if you give it time and you give it time, people will slowly come back. But time and time again, it feels like we get along the right track. The player base isn't there, so we break the system so everyone can play each other. And that will work, but the game will never grow with that. So there we have it. To sum up, a few quick points. Stacking should be not just punished, but it should be more solo queue as encouraged. We could look at map voting. We could look at GP costing. We could look at an MVP not getting any lost GP for both teams. This could be done through score per minute, a much more accurate representation rather than pure GP. We could encourage solo and duo only, but the player base isn't there. We could have a much tougher report system on people that quit. We could have a better quitting system. We could have a much better reporting system for abusive people. Nobody wants to play on ladder and be abused. Most of the problems are coming from a small player base, and the small player base is happening because nobody likes the current matchmaking system from what I've heard, apart from the very few groups of 5-man that are sort of, quote, running the system. So that's my thoughts. I hope that's maybe put some thoughts in your mind or helped you in some way. If you do, leave a like, leave a comment, share it on the forum or something, Reddit. If you want to support my content as a solo guy, you can Twitch subscribe. You can support the content goal. I'm currently basically trying to build a new computer so I can make faster, better content for you. You can join the YouTube page. That helps out massively. You can like and comment or follow me on Twitter or join my Discord. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'm trying to be the beacon of light, proving that solo queue is a viable strategy. And I guess I didn't do that because I got stuck at Diamond 3 and it was just Stack City. But I did enjoy the experience. It's a shame it kind of came to an end. I'd like to see things improved. I hope this isn't me bowing out of Gears of War. Thank you. Because last time I did one of these, it was hugely upvoted and nobody really reached out to speak about the netcode. Hopefully somebody speaks on this, as it can't just be me. I can't just be the solo guy in the community trying to write documents to try help the game. I'm not a big enough channel. I need other people to help me. So, thank you.